Good afternoon to you, snooker fans, and welcome to the latest episode of this, the 15 Rate podcast, with myself, Scott McCarter, here in County Tyrone in Northern Ireland. And I'm joined as ever by my wonderful co host, Kelly Barker in London. Good afternoon, Kelly.
Afternoon, Scott. How are you doing? Good to be back for another week.
Very good, thank you. And lovely to be back, as you say. And we've had a remarkable week in Manchester. Well done, Kyren Wilson. A tremendous final, particularly. And,
In Telford,
well,
I must say.
just a
Mhm.
tremendous week.
Absolutely. I think any time. I thought all matches were pretty good actually before we even got to the final. But Kyren and Judd are just, I think they're pulling away from the others as the best two in the world at the moment. And yeah, the others have got a bit of catching up to do before Sheffield.
Indeed. By the way, interestingly, on their head to head now, it's 13-0 with Kyren's win. So, interesting little dynamic between the two of them, I think, going
I
forward.
I think so, and Kyron's had the upper hand this season as well with those three finals now, and I think the Masters semi-finals. So yeah, Judd's got a bit to think about, I think, but he's still playing very well, so not too much to worry about. But Kyron is the one who does seem to have the upper hand.
Very much so. Kyren is the man of the moment. 10 ranking titles now, same as Jimmy White, but you've got the results from the quarterfinals onward, and we'll sort of go through them as usual.
Yes, well, we'll start with Kyron in the quarterfinal. He beat Mark Williams 6-3, and he always looks the winner of this one. Mark Williams has spoken about his eye problems recently, and never really looks the likely winner. 2 days before his 50th, Mark posted on Twitter the next morning that he was down the opticians. So hopefully he can get something sorted before the next event. He'll be defending champion in Manchester. So yeah, we want to see him playing well. But Kyren was good and strong, and yeah, on to the next.
Yes, I would describe Kyren against Williams as efficient rather than spectacular, but fair play to Williams for making at least a bit of a match out of it, given his eye problem and so on. He said he probably will try and sort something with his eyes after the Worlds. You might have seen the interview that Willow did, where he said he would try and sort something out. But no, Kyren was very good, and it just shows the extraordinary confidence he's got, I think.
He has. He's looked like a world champion, and it's given him. I think that world title has given him an extra, whatever bit you need. Even when you're the world champion, he's looking better every tournament. And as you've mentioned 10 ranking events now, and five of those have come in the last 12 months with Sheffield and four this season. So yeah, he's just on the crest of a wave at the moment, isn't he? But we move on with the next quarter final, which was Neil Robertson beating Mark Selby 6-3. And I thought this was a super quality match between two players who've really come good again this season, and this match didn't disappoint. Robertson led 3-1 at the interval, although Selby's 139 in frame two was very impressive. Breaks of 72 and 99 after the break, though, helped the recent Hong Kong winner to a 6-3 win. And he was good value for it, really. I thought Robbo played well and deserved that one.
Yeah, I mean, Rob probably, apart from uh, Kyron and Judd, and I'm being very deliberate in my choice of player order of saying that there. And third, Kyron and Judd, you would say that Robertson and Selby are probably, in terms of form this season, just in the next tier down. So it's going to be a very open sort of world championship when we get that far. But no, as you say, Robertson was superb. Selby, the 139 apart, didn't really, you know, really threaten him, but Robertson was marvellous.
Yes, I felt like Southey could have played better if he'd have been given more chances, but I thought Robertson played very well and he was good value. And yeah, you could see you could see Robertson winning and moving through to the semi-final against Kyren. That was really one to look forward to.
Yes,
Um,
well, just on that point, I did say, I know we'll get to the semi-final itself in a moment, but I did say that I did have my doubts as to whether Robertson would quite have the form to beat Wilson just because I know Robertson has been coming back to form lately and obviously won in Hong Kong and won the English Open as well. But Wilson has just been that wee cut above, but we'll get to the semi final in a minute.
yes, but anyway, on to the last two quarterfinals, and the Thursday night match was Judd Trump and Sean Murphy. And this was a Judd Trump masterclass. Um,
Yeah.
After a very indifferent first frame, which was full of errors from both, Judd went on just a supreme run with breaks of 77, 101, 65, 66, and 55 to win 6-0 and restricted Sean to just 40 points in the whole match. Murphy said afterwards that there wasn't a lot he could do, and he certainly didn't make six mistakes to lose six frames. Judd very much looking the man to beat on that form.
Yes, I mean, Stephen Hendry made the point that during or before that match or after the match, even that once Trump won that scrappy frame, which was nothing to write home about, let's be honest, it actually gave him the confidence to say, right, I've had me frame off essentially, and I've got away with it. Let's sort of just steamroll him now. It was almost a case of sort of reprieve man syndrome. Murphy didn't take his chances when Trump was vulnerable early on, and Trump just steamrolled him.
Absolutely, and when you see Judd playing like that, you think how would he ever lose in a match? But yeah, he played so well and was looking so good that even though he didn't go on to win the tournament, I think I don't think Judd's lost too much. I think we'll come on to what went wrong a bit for him in the final, but yeah, he played. He was near the top of his game that night and would have beaten anyone, I think.
Yes, I
So
mean, he would have
on to the
beaten
final
anybody,
quarter
as you
final
say.
and on to the final quarter, and it was the one you'd have enjoyed. John Higgins beat Xiao Guidong 6-5. This was another incredible match. Zhao started so well, making
Yeah.
breaks of 111, 55, 60, and 104 to lead 5-2. But somehow developed clincher's disease, it seemed. Higgins stuck in there well, drawing on all his experience to eventually claw it back and win 6-5. That'll hurt Gudong, I think, who's had a tremendous season, but badly struggled when he got into a winning position, really. And Higgins' recent success probably gave him the belief that he could pull it back.
Yes, well, you say I would have enjoyed it. I think, to be honest, it was a bit more a case of enduring it to the end up. But no, it was tremendous to see John doing well. Uh, Joe Godot, yes, yes, I mean, yes, he won the World Open, but clincher's disease afflicts anybody that's not quite got that level of experience. And like, because it's a big change from winning a sort of tournament with theoretically everybody in. It only took 32 to win, but um, you know, it's to win a sort of limited field tournament like that. But of course, going back to John. total contrast to 4 years ago. He, he went 4 years ago, he lost 4 frames, and in the two matches that he won, he played he played all 11 frames in both matches. So an extraordinary amount of resilience from John, and he's just how on earth does he keep doing it? I know it didn't quite go well against Trump, but how on earth does he keep doing it? I mean, it is quite extraordinary. 148 ranking event quarterfinals now, that's a record. So, dear me,
Yeah,
extraordinary player.
still going strong, and you think because of his recent form and that title win will have given him so much, and we've seen sort of since then how well he's playing and how well he must be feeling. That I think he's more of a shout for Sheffield this year than he has been for the last few years. So it'll be very interesting to see how he gets on.
Well,
But
given,
shall we move?
I was just going to say before we move on, the last time John, I think, was a genuine shout in my book was 2011. And we all know what happened then and who he beat in that fight. So,
Well, there is that. I mean, he's got close a few times since with those three finals. But
yeah,
yeah, I think his chances are decent this year. We'll look forward to seeing what he can do. But on to
yeah.
the semi-finals, and the first one was a tremendous match. Real clash of the Titans. Kyren beating Neil Robertson 6-5. As the world champ met the recent Hong Kong winner, and it didn't disappoint. Robbo was out of the blocks quickest with a 183 to lead 2-0 and 4-1. His high standard did dip slightly, but only slightly, and Kyren stepped up with breaks of 116, 57, and 89, which took us to 5-all in the decider time. Described as one of the best matches of the season, it was the Warrior who took his first chance in the decider with a superb 1-3-4 and Booker's place in the final. Tremendous match. And what a season the world champions having.
I know. I mean, we don't want to sound like a broken record here, but it is probably one of the most extraordinary seasons of modern times. I mean, the way he just destroyed Robertson in that decider with a 1-3-4 total clearance, as you say. Like, that takes bottle to do. You've been out there battling for, I think it was close on 3 yards. They were out there battling and just said, right, I'm going to go and clear up and not give Robertson a shot. It was absolutely superb. And the whole match was just wonderful to watch. I mean, one of my bugbears on the tour is the length of the matches. This shows that why snooker needs to be played over like proper lengths of matches. Because like you wouldn't get that sort of drama in a best of seven. I don't care what anybody says.
I agree, Tim. But the one good thing now, Scott, is we've got no more session matches left this season. Um, the worst we've got now is best of 19, so lots to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah. Again, that's just a particular hobby horse of mine that I like to talk about from time to time, but no, that that Wilson Robertson match proved the longer. Well, I know best 11's not that long historically, but best of 11. It's probably one of the best matches of the season. That one, so you wouldn't
Oh,
get that in the
definitely.
best of seven. I don't care what anybody
No, I
says.
agree. I agree. So yeah, Kyren was into the final, and who would he play? Well, it was Judd Trump who beat John Higgins 6-4 in that match. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but this was just another superb match, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did wonder whether John might be slightly mentally tired after the comeback win against Pudong, but Judd started very well with a 130 and a 126 to lead 3-1. John hit back with a 107. And we were suddenly 4-all. But breaks of 61 and 53 for Judd pulled him away to win 6-4. And I'm out set up a mouth watering tie with Kyren in the final for the third time this season. This was a great match, Scott.
I know. I mean, that's was tremendous again. Uh, a bit, a bit like a bit, uh, slightly. What's the word? Slightly disappointing for me in one sense because like Judd has really dominated John in the last 7 years. I mean, now 12 times in a row in ranking events he's beaten, but it's extraordinary what Judd is doing as well. And I think the thing that struck me about this final, and we're going to get into it now, was they each had their own sort of particular narratives. Judd obviously is going for this £100,000 bonus for 100 centuries in the season, and obviously Kyron's building up to defending at Sheffield. And then there's the dynamic between them. So there's all sorts of little sort of subplots and narratives as well as the actual final. So, it's one of those finals that sometimes you get a final doesn't live up to the hype. Well, this most certainly did. So I'll
It
hand over to you
absolutely
to give
did.
us the details.
Yes. Um, this was the best of the three they've played this season, in my opinion. Both seemed at the peak of their powers in the afternoon. No centuries, but three half centuries each, finished 4-all. And it really gave us an evening session to look forward to. In the evening, George took the opener, courtesy of a fluke red out of the snooker, then flicked the yellow as well. Really, really dramatic start to that first frame. Kyren had a little wry smile in his chair and wondered, wow, is it going to be one of them nights? But those flukes didn't affect him, and he was much the better player after that. A trio of 70 plus breaks put Kyren 8-5 up and well in the driver's seat. Judd was in trouble a bit now and was missing the odd one that Kyren wasn't. Trump then dug deep himself with a few frames of glorious snooker of his own. And once again, we were at 9-all and one frame to decide who was champion. Both had a chance, but it was Kyren Wilson that won it in two scoring visits to become the Players' Championship winner and win his fourth ranking title of a phenomenal season. Judd would be gutted to lose that one, but take nothing away from Kyren Wilson and another fantastic week.
And it was a tremendous final. I mean, the particular uh, highlight for me was when Kyron just completely, you know, not ignored Judd in the sense of, but Judd was coming back. You Kyron got 8-5 in front, and then Judd's coming back, and you sort of think, good grief, Judd will do that. But in the same way as in the semi final against Roberts, he just it was different in the sense that it wasn't one visit, but Kyron just when it got close, never took his foot off the gas. And I think that has been the extraordinary thing about Kyron this season. Not to diverge from the Players' Championship medal, but if you look in two of the other cases two of the other finals that Kyron has won. He's won 10-8 against Trump in the Giant Grand Prix and 10-9 in the German Masters against Hawkins. So he's a master when it goes close. And I think that's the thing that has really struck me this season. It was the thing that struck me again in the final. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I think maybe 12 months ago or more, he wouldn't win so many deciders. But I just think that world title has given him so much belief in his ability. And when the chips are down and it does go to 8-7, 8-all, and it's close in the heat of battle, he's got And he's got a great cue action as well, and total belief in that action. And yeah, I think whilst he keeps this level, and others have got to step up to the plate. I think he's going to take some stopping in Manchester next week and in Sheffield. I think that Crucible case had better watch out.
Yes, of course, anybody that listens to this podcast will be well aware of what the Crucible Curse is, but in case you don't, it refers to the fact that no first-time champion has ever successfully defended. But I know Hendry statistically won more ranking titles. He won five. Obviously you were around then, I wasn't, but I've never seen a first-time world champion play as well as Kyren played or
No,
has played this season.
I think when Judd won his world title, he was phenomenal the next season as well. I think the shackles were off and he just went for it and played amazing snooker. I think Kyron's let go a bit more this season as well, and that's helped his game. He's speeded up. He's attacking. He goes for his shots. I mean, neither of them in that final. They rarely turned anything down. They went for it, and I mean that was possibly why Judd lost in the end because he was it one too many he took on in that final frame. But anyhow, another great final, and really enjoying the rivalry between them two this season.
Yes, as I say, it's now 13-all, so it'll be interesting to see where that rivalry goes in sort of future years.
Would you
Um,
would you fancy a world final between those two?
well, the curse of 1987 is still with us, so history would tell us not, but at the same time, I did predict on Dave Henton's podcast that if the world final goes to decider, John Williams might come out of retirement. So you never know what could happen.
Well, I would say that stranger things have happened. I'm not quite sure stranger than that has happened, Scott. But yeah, it was a great question about John Williams because he's the only man who's ever refereed any of the three deciders in Crucible history. So
Mm.
yeah, we since he's retired, we've never had one. So maybe we should bring him back, even if to just sit in the audience. We need him there.
I know. Oh dear. Uh, but 23 years without a crucible decider. Goodness me. In the
Yes,
final, that is.
since I've been going to the final, we've never had one. Um, 2003 was my first of having the season ticket, and yeah, we've never quite had one since then. So
No, no, no.
yeah, we are overdue.
Yes, indeed. Um, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Kelly. There has been some talk that the Players Series tournaments have been put too close together in the calendar now because the Tour Championship draw is precisely the same in the first round as it was in the Players Championship because there's obviously been very little time to change things and therefore the lineup doesn't change, except you've obviously four players left. So I personally think that we should go back to the old system where we're saying you have the World Grand Prix in about sort of January time, then you've the players in about February, and then you've the Worlds or the Tour just before the Worlds, meaning that you've enough space for the lineups to change before each one. I don't know what you feel about that.
I totally agree, and I think this hasn't been ideal, as has it, that we've got the same draw for the tour next week as we've just had for the Players' Championship. The only thing I would say is, we do have to fit in around what the TV wants. Maybe ITV didn't have much of a other space in their schedule. It goes on. Was there a venue were venues ready before? We could have had different times of the year. There's so many things to decide. In an ideal world, I think they would be spaced out a little bit more. I think this will be the third or fourth tournament in a row where Sean Murphy and Barry Hawkins have met. So it's not necessarily ideal, but if this is what we've got, then we'll have to take it because we want these tournaments in the calendar. And who's to say maybe they couldn't be in the calendar if we didn't have them like this. But yeah, hopefully next season we would hope there'll be a little bit more space in between.
Yes, well, look, no one's saying we shouldn't have the tournaments, or nobody's saying like we'll refuse to watch them or anything. But it just strikes you as a rather odd piece of scheduling. But nonetheless, um, interestingly as well, there was also the talk, of course, about the light cue ball in the final, particularly. So we'll just discuss that, and then I think you've got a few other things to go on before we finish.
Yes.
But what did you think of this light cue ball business then?
Well, I think it was obvious from watching both players' reactions that there was something not quite right. I think throughout the day they had three whites on the go. They tried three different ones, and none of them seemed to be just right. Um, I think Judd will say that I think it affected Judd more than it did Kyren. I think Judd needs for his game, he does need more perfect conditions. So it was a shame that that maybe got in the way of making it an even better final. Um, and Sean Murphy said during his whitewash defeat against Judd that the shot he did get to play on that table. He was on table two for his first match, but on table one, you could tell that the conditions were a challenge. So, yeah, maybe that was something that was a little bit of a shame, but it didn't detract too much from the great snooker we saw.
No, it didn't. And again, these things tend to be things that sort of uber fans like you and I and Dave Hinton and other people tend to pick up on, discuss endlessly, but it doesn't detract from things, so I don't think we should spend too much time on it. And of course, you've also got news that because Liam Highfield has won the European Championship and he's already on the tour, we got this extraordinary story of a 14-year-old who's been offered a place on the tour, but uh, but obviously his parents will decide whether they think he's able for it, if you like.
Yes, the European Championships finally came to an end in Antalya. So as you say, Liam Highfield won it to become European champion. He had already won a tour card earlier in the month over there because he won via the Q Tour. But we got this 14-year-old Polish lad now, Michael Saberchek. I'm not sure if that's pronounced right. He's been nominated for a place, and he's only 14 years old. So, will he be allowed to play? I'm not sure. And it would mean, you know, coming out of school and all that. So, I think, I would hope that if he doesn't take place, then they'll just keep a place for him when he is 16. But he's a very promising player, and he's already won the under 16s and under 18s European Championship earlier on in the they had a fortnight with different events, and he won the under 16s and under 18s as a 14-year-old. So excellent from him, very promising, and obviously gone on to be runner-up in the main event. So Michael Saberchek is a name to keep an eye out for in the future.
Yes, indeed. And look, it's difficult for us to pronounce whether he should or shouldn't. That's obviously way above our pay grade. But as snooker fans, we'd obviously love to see young blood coming through. But maybe some people might say is 14 just a wee bit too young, but we'll wait and see what decisions arrived at. Let's say that's way above
Yeah.
our pay grade in these matters, but
Right,
no,
right, Scott, do
tremendous to
you
see him doing so well, I think.
absolutely? And 14 years old, and he's already, runner up in the main European Championship. And I mean, at 14, it's not easy to win the under 16s and or the under 18s. Either we've been playing against players who are, much more battle battle hardened than he already is. So, what a wonderful story. Yeah, so we'll wait and see whether he does take his place in the future. But are we going to finish off with your trivia,
Oh,
Scott?
yes. Now, I have to thank Kelly for digging me out of a bit of a hole, because normally I would look back to see what the question was that I'd had, but I rather neglected to do that this morning. So thanks, Kelly, for digging me out of a hole. But I asked you last time what or who won the 1995 UK Championship with a 146. He beat Peter Ebdon 10-3 in the final. And given that she's such a fan, I'll let Kelly tell you the answer.
It was, of course, Stephen Hendry. Who else would it be back then?
Yes, of
But
course.
yes, I
Stephen
remember
Hendry.
watching that
So,
final on the box. So yeah.
yeah, well, at least you were alive for it. I wasn't.
Well, you've got youth on your side, Scott. So don't be too downhearted there.
Yeah. Yes, I've made up for it since, I can tell you that much. No, but this question, or the question that I'll answer next time, if I remember it, is with the Tour Championship coming up next week, I'm going to ask you the question. In the 2020 Tour Championship, which two players set the joint record for the most centuries in a best of 17? Which two players set the joint record, the record between the two players of the most centuries in a best of 17 in the Tour Championship in 2020? So that's our question that I'll answer next time, and you can ponder over that for a few days, and of course, enjoy the action in Manchester. So I don't see.
Yeah.
Are you going to Manchester, Kelly? Are you? Suppose you're
No,
sailing up for Sheffield, are you?
Sheffield's my next stop, yes. But we'll be back to review it after. We'll be back to review Manchester. We'll be back at our next episode after Manchester.
Yes, yes, that probably would be best. We'll be back after Manchester so that we don't come on too quickly and you know bother you halfway through it. We'll wait until after Manchester because we'll have a we'll have a few days then until the world qualifying starts. So there'll be a few days then in between, I think.
Well, actually, Scott, when the tour finishes on the Sunday night, the world qualifiers start the very next day. So, yeah, not too much time to go from one to another. But yeah, no more short sessions, best of 19s all the way. So
Yes,
yeah, I'm sure we'll be enjoying that tour.
indeed, indeed. Pure, uh, a type of the season for purists, I think, but that's the way it should be in my book. But
Absolutely.
anyway,
Save
with that, folks, I'll say thank you very much to Kelly, and I look forward to joining you again, Kelly, after the third championship to review the action in Manchester. So thank you very much indeed.
absolutely. Bye for now.
Bye for now, everyone.